So I chipped the corner of my granite bench top with a pot, unfortunately. I don't know whether you can see that there, but there's a little nick just there. It's only about probably 2 mils deep. So what I'm going to do is, that's a lot on it, you can see it's just there, it's like a little V. I'm going to clean it up with some sandpaper, and then I'm going to fill it with some concrete repair, and then I'm going to sand it off and polish it so we don't even know it's there. Oh, here it is. So I get some hard, coarse sandpaper, we'll rub the edges off, get the bumps off, make sure it's all nice and smooth to take the resin. And then we're going to clean up the back of it, make sure that there's no issues around, no other nicks around the place, and it's nice and smooth and an easy repair job. If it was all chunky and lumping in it, it'd be difficult to get the concrete mix to fit, so we make sure it's a nice even surface, a bit like repairing a surfboard. So I'm using this concrete repair. It's a 2-part epoxy, but it's a paste, so you can see there's 2 colours. There's a white colour and then there's a black colour. The white colour is the epoxy, the black colour is the catalyst. So you mix the 2 bits together. I only need a tiny little bit. So I'm going to chop a piece off, hopefully get it even. So I've managed to chop a little piece off, you can see it there. There's still a bit of plastic wrap around it. Put the cap back on, or the bit of cover back on the end of the epoxy so it's right to go away, and keep that airtight, otherwise it'll dry out on you. And that's not much good for anybody. So squish it all together like this, and I'm going to look for an even paste out of it. So just keep squishing and squishing and squishing in your fingers, and so I want to get an even colour that's going to be like a concrete grey colour. You can see now I've got it like an even coloured grey. It's far too much for this repair, but if I squish it flat, you can see there's no change in colour, it's all the one colour. Makes it look all nice and concrete coloured, I suppose, because that's the whole idea. And that way we know that it's mixed together properly. Now this will take 24 hours to dry, but I want to get the job done as quickly as possible. So I'm going to take off the amount that I need, probably only need about that much. And the reason I only need that much is because there's a very little ding. So I'm going to half shape it a little bit into a triangle, then I'm going to wedge it in place, and then I'm going to pull some sticky tape over the top of it. And the sticky tape, don't need that. The sticky tape is going to make it form a lot easier and make it a lot quicker to repair. Right, now I'm going to half shape this, and I'm going to squish it into the spot, make it a rough idea of the shape. There's too much there, but I'm going to sand most of that off. I just want to make sure that I'm a little bit wider or a little bit fatter than the surface itself, so I can sand back to make it flush. The whole idea here is to put just a little bit too much on, so you've got a little bit of product to sand back off and make it all nice and flat. So I'm going to have a close look at that, and it's close to the hot plate that I don't want to turn on. And to get the shape right, I'm going to use some sticky tape. Here's some I prepared earlier. And I'm going to squish it really hard down as I put it on, and that forms the same shape as the outside edge of the sticky tape. Leave it like that. All done. One of the longest parts of this job is the sanding, so let's minimize the effort we need by taping off the parts that we don't want to scratch and then have to buff scratches out. So this is a little thing just here, it's all filled, ready to go, it's finally dry. So I'm going to tape around it so I don't scratch these other areas, and I don't have to worry about trying to make them look like new as well later. Let's get some taping happening. See that very well, but all taped around it. They've got a little bit of edges here that I'll have to buff anyway, so I'm going to sand all this down flush and then polish it all off. That'll be the job done. I'm going to use a 120 grade sandpaper pretty coarse. I've already used it, so it's not super fresh. And just a standard sanding block, flat side edged, and just go at it. Use a sanding block, that way you know you've got a nice straight edge that you're going against. You don't have to worry about holding it flat or getting the angle right. You feel it straight away when you're using the flat surface. Now this bench has a little beveled edge, so I'm going to go ahead and follow that bevel along. Pretty much as far down as I want to go for this heavy gauge sandpaper now. Well, you can see the difference where there's a little bit of fill here, there's a little bit left on the top, and there's a little, sorry, on the bevel, and there's a little bit left on the edge here. So I'm going to use the rest of that to give me a little bit of proud material to buff off so it goes perfectly flush. Don't sand too deep into it. Give yourself a little bit to work with. Right, I'm going to take this tape off now so you can have a look at where I'm at. The rest is just all buffing now. So before I get rid of all the dust around it, you can see where there's a little bit of over sand over here where all this dust is, and this is the actual place here that I've left on. So it's nearly back to where I want to be. There's a little bit extra there that I can work with to sand it all off, and they'll just disappear nicely into the shape of the bench top. My middle grade is a soft pad. It's about I'd call it a 200, maybe a 300 grade, and then I'm going to go to a 1200 finishing polish sandpaper. That's what that one feels like. So a bit of this first. Rub those heavy grinds out, and this is the reason why you want to keep a bit of extra meat on the material that you put on it, and don't sand it all the way down to the bottom. I'm only using this very quickly to rub any of the really heavy sanding scratches out of the surface that I worked on. And from then, I'm using really light pressure actually. From then, I'm just going to buff. So I've already made the shape here that I want. I'm just making it even and smooth now, and then I'll buff it to get the high polish at the end. Nearly done. Looking pretty close now. You can see that's just the chip just there, and there's just a little bit of material on the top and the edges here that I'm gonna once again buff off. It feels pretty good. Buffing time on that 1200. I'm gonna wet it. Wet the surface. This will still rub a little bit of material off, so I know that it's actually working. Again, nice light action, not too much. Try and keep it exactly the same angle. Use it because I'm not scratching anymore. I'm actually buffing. I can move a bit bigger circles and blend in the polish with the rest of the bench top. You ever wonder why fine grade paper has a better or a more like a thicker backing paper than the coarse one? You'd think it'd be the other way around. It's not. By design, the back of the paper you can use as a buffing pad. That's what I'm going to do right now. So we've gone from a dinged bench that was kind of sharp. We've taken the overhang or the cracks out with a bit of coarse sandpaper to make sure that we can fill it all, so it's all one even fill. We've filled it full of, well, epoxy concrete, for want of a better word. Let it dry, sanded it off, polished it all up, and we've wiped it all down. And from over here, you can't really see it. All done.